Hello students of Anatomy and Physiology 2. I want to continue my lecture now on the small intestine. So this is actually the second part. The first part focused on the digestion in the small intestine. The second big job that the small intestine has is absorption of micromolecules. Remember, the whole point of digestion is to break macromolecules down into micromolecules that then can get absorbed across the wall of the small intestine into the bloodstream and into the lymphatic system. So this is what I want to focus on now, on this absorption. There are two things that the small intestine has that make it the ideal place for absorption of nutrients. Number one, the small intestine is very long. It has actually a length of 15 to 18 feet. Now this is all crammed into your abdominal cavity, so it has a lot of twists and turns, your small intestine, so that it fits into that space. The small intestine has three parts: the duodenum, which mostly is the place of digestion, and the second and the third parts are the jejunum and the ileum. The jejunum and the ileum are mostly places of absorption. Now you see already, having a very long small intestine gives a very, very long stretch of surface area through which absorption can take place. There are other features that increase surface area in the small intestine. And these three features are the plicae circularis, the villi, and microvilli. I want to talk about all three of them. When you imagine the small intestine to be tube-like, like this, when you cut this tube open and look inside, you will actually see rings. That means the small intestine is not smooth on the inside, but it has basically outcroppings that stand out like rings. Now these rings, you can imagine, are already increasing the surface area. Now on top of these rings, we have more outcroppings, and these are finger-like outcroppings that sit on top of these rings. These finger-like outcroppings are called villi. And when you take one villus, so this would be here, one villus, I draw a villus enlarged down here. When you take actually a microscope, a very strong electron microscope, you can see that this villus is made up of lots of cells. And each cell again has little outcroppings on top. On these little outcroppings are called microvilli. So together with the plicae circularis, the villi and the microvilli, you get a huge surface area, and this whole surface area is involved in absorption of micronutrients. Again, when I talk about micronutrients, I mean amino acids, I mean nucleotides, I mean fatty acids, I mean glycerol and monosaccharides. These are micronutrients that are being absorbed through the wall of the small intestine into the blood or into the lymphatic system. When we look at one villus, here we have our outer cells with the microvilli on top. When we look inside, we can actually see blood vessels inside each villus. So each villus has its own blood vessel system. Now, of course, there is arterial blood, and then there is venular blood that basically brings blood in and takes blood out. Now, into the blood, we get the monosaccharides, we get the amino acids, and we get the nucleotides transferred into the blood. So I want to write this out for you. So amino acids, monosaccharides, and nucleotides end up in the bloodstream. So these are micronutrients, micromolecules that now can be transported into the bloodstream. Now you know that fats are being broken down into fatty acids and glycerol. Especially the fatty acids do not very well when they get mixed with water. Now you know that blood or blood plasma is mostly water. So these fatty acids are actually being absorbed by these cells that make up the outer lining of the villi, and these cells attach fatty acids to so-called proteins. So I'm gonna put protein here. Inside these cells, they have specific proteins that link the fatty acids to these proteins. Now together, these are called chylomicrons. The fatty acids linked to proteins are called chylomicrons. These chylomicrons do not end up in the bloodstream, but they end up in something called the lacteal. And I'm going to draw the lacteal in here now. The lacteal belongs to the lymphatic system. So, with other words, the lacteal contains lymph. So these chylomicrons end up in this so-called lacteal, and the lacteal is connected to the lymphatic system. So the lymphatic vessels take these fatty acids basically through the lymphatic system, through the lymph nodes, through the lymphatic trunks, into the cisterna chyli. Now we briefly talked about the cisterna chyli of the lymphatic system. Maybe you remember it is the lowest part of the thoracic duct, kind of a thickened area, and that is where this lymph that is rich in fatty acids connects to the thoracic duct. So I just want to write here lymphatic system, that you know that this belongs not to the cardiovascular, but to this other system that transports fluids through our body. This is it for today. Thank you for your attention, and I hope to make many more videos. Bye-bye.